the GASOCast, episode 36, right into the thick of the district schedule. We've got eyes everywhere, all over the state. We're just talking about some players, some storylines, some news and notes from all over the place. So with that being said, let's hop in with the biggest bit of news to hit the state of Texas this week, and that's the McDonald's All-American Game nominees release. 32 Texans on that list. Congratulations to each and every one of you guys. We're not going to go down just for time reasons, but with that being said, you know, it's an honor to get selected for this type of game, and we hope that as many as they can fit on the roster of y'all make it on that final All-American Game roster. So let's go ahead and move on to a quick thought for the weekend. You know, we got district races wide open. Some teams are about to make the turn at the halfway point of those district races. You know, like we talked about last week, coaching matters, especially when you get into these district games. So I'll just open it up to everybody for a thought on what they saw this week.
Matt, you want to tip us off?
Sure. I just saw two, really good programs last night with Richland and Denton Ryan, and you just see like kind of the divide as some of these district races are taking place. And these games are so much more meaningful, I feel like, sometimes than the offseason. Like, you see the pageantry of the whole school kind of take shape. Everybody's coming out on a Tuesday night. You got stuff going on at halftime. It's just a fun time to be a fan and go to these games, and then you start to see teams start to separate themselves. And I saw that with Richland last night.
Yeah, for me, I'll say is like talking to some of my coaching buddies, they go into looking at their district schedule saying, oh, we have to sweep this team. We need to split with these guys if we can sneak this game. So after you get through one half of a district race, you almost have to reset and, okay, what did you accomplish there? Where do you need to like catch up and make things happen? And then we're all human, so you kind of know, these coaches know if you finish third here, playing second in this district already, and kind of what that's kind of shaping up. So you're kind of looking ahead, but there's a lot of parity in these district matchups, and like some teams may have a big win on a Friday and come back Tuesday, and that momentum's all the way gone. So
some would say
you got to stay locked in.
Yeah, and Blue, I'll just ask you this question. We were talking about it in the office earlier this morning. You were at a big-time district matchup last night, and the question I have for you is how far can Dallas Highland Park go this year?
Yeah, it's District 7 and 6A. They're still having to catch Lake Highlands, who's the front runner in all of the state of Texas. I would assume by everybody. But one thing I want to, Coach Peeler, if you're watching, which I'm sure you are, I'm going to give you 5 seconds to step away from the camera. I know you're a very humble guy. You don't want, so when I get to 5, you step away, close your computer, lock it down, kick it. It doesn't matter what you do, but here it is. I think Highland Park, they're a contender for state, and I'm going to tell you why. They will get throughout the game, and I kind of saw this yesterday. And this is not like stepping out of the edge and falling over the cliff for them. The thing is that they're ranked number 13 in the GASO, top 25 rankings for 6A. I don't know what. I guess I should look to see what that kind of puts them into Region 1 behind Lake Highlands. But they're a team. If you come out onto that court and you are only giving 90%, and I'm talking about in a playoff run. If you're only going to give 90% or you have a little bit, you trip up during the game, they're going to come after you. They're a team that is well-balanced. They don't play an athletic game because they don't have these overpowering athletes, but they have dudes at every single position, whether it's the fundamentals of blocking out, getting a second chance tip in, or a rebound, setting up their offense. Everything that they do is very strategic. Everything they do is with a game plan. And David Peeler is one of the best. If we talk about what's going to get you through the playoff, through district and the playoffs, is coaching. He's very good at in-game decision-making to change things up. And in some ways, though, too, we're going to stick with our game plan, and you're going to have to beat us. And you saw that a little bit. Yes, they're at home. They're playing a rival in Dallas Jesuit. But when they are all together, all those, their starting 5 is as solid as anybody in the state. They go 6, maybe 7 deep. They can interchange some guys. They are very difficult to kind of figure out. Because my thought last night, honestly, as I'm sitting there going, how fun would it be to get a team, Highland Park specifically, down to San Antonio and let the rest of the state see this type of basketball? a little bit is wishful thinking, but I think it's just a different brand of basketball. It's a program that bleeds from middle school all the way to the varsity level, and the toughness, how hard they play, the competitiveness, everything all in one. It was pretty exciting basketball.
Glad you said it. I love it. I mean, like I'm a homer. You know, I went to Highland Park, so it's easy for me to pull for the program just from afar. And you know, I don't want to over talk about that group from like a biased standpoint, but I mean, they're really fun. They're really good. They're ranked 13th for a reason. Sorry, it's the truth. Yeah. They're a really good group, and man, that would be really fun to see. I like that question that you posed. How fun would it be to see this? They play just a really clean brand of basketball. And It's really fun to watch.
Absolutely.
Yep. So with that being said, I mean, obviously, who knows how the season's going to play out, but we'll be keeping tabs on that group, especially. Moving on to some commitments and signings. The major one from this week, Elliott Taite out of Frisco.
Heritage,
right. Committing to Air Force. So congratulations, Mr. Taite, on your commitment, and wish you the best of luck at the next level. We do have a coaching milestone. Brandon Thomas, Oak Cliff Faith family, picking up win number 300. Congratulations, Coach. And at the rate it's going, you'll have plenty more this season. Okay, so now moving on to some big implication games from this week. You know, we had two districts really start to get a little bit murky, especially last night. And the one that I'll pick is that Birdville. It's not really an upset. It is in the rankings. They've had some tough times with injuries and other circumstances this year. But springing the upset over Colleyville Heritage in District 6 5A. I mean, this district was one that we circled on probably 2 or 3 times in our preseason stuff, talking about, you know, who's going to come out of this. There's going to be a really good team left at home, because right now you got Denton at 4-0 leading the way, who plays Argyle on Friday, I believe. Grapevine's right behind them. Colleyville Heritage, after that loss, is right behind them, both at 3-1. And then Birdville with Garrick Norman back is 2-2, holding in the 4th spot. Then you got Argyle, you got North Richland Hills, Richland right there. They're out of the playoffs right now. These are 2 really good teams that have both been right in the rankings, in Richland's case, or right outside in Argyle's, that are sitting outside the playoffs right now. I don't know how it's going to go from here, but I guarantee you that where it sits right now is not going to be how it finishes up, because there's going to be some movement. One of these teams is going to get hot and force their way in.
Talk about not getting a breather. Like,
right.
Every single night is a tough prep, and yeah, that's fun basketball. That's fun to be a part of.
Yeah, for me, looking at District 26 6A, and I talked about it earlier in our opening thought, just how these districts are starting to shape up. You're seeing now there's 3 at the top at 6-1 with Austin, Westlake, Buda, Johnson, and Lake Travis, and they've all beat each other. So you have Westlake beat Lake Travis, Buda Johnson beat Westlake just last Friday.
Yes.
Yes.
Friday, and then last night Lake Travis over Buda Johnson. So now you're all 6-1. Getting ready to start the second half of district here pretty soon. I think Lake Travis and Westlake play each other again next Tuesday. Mm-hmm. So you're just looking at that, and, you know, these 3 teams, you know, you're going to see each other again. What did you learn in the first matchup? And it's about who can make these adjustments. And, I mean, looking at that district right there in a Region 4, you know, whoever wins that district, you know, is going to have a lot of momentum. Yeah. And when we're talking about Region 4, it's pretty wide open in 6A. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, this whole district is pretty battle-tested at this point. So look for somebody out of that 26 6A to make a big run trying to get to state.
Yeah, that was the big talking point. Let's go back and say we were wrong, because we didn't have any of these guys ranked in our preseason top 25. And I'll go back and I'll continue to say that, because it's, you know, Westlake went to back-to-back state appearances, and here we are in a dogfight, which, you know what, Westlake hasn't been in a while. So let's kind of see how this shapes up, and then I'll turn to District 19, Region 3 in Houston, and we have a big discussion just in Region 3 alone of who's going to be the team to come out of there. But when you look at District 19, the Katy district, looking here, you got Katy Seven Lakes at 7-0. You have Katy Jordan sitting at 6-1. Katy Taylor 5-1, and Cinco Ranch at 4-2. And so and I didn't even mention Katy Tompkins
or Mayde Creek.
Yeah, and they're fighting for some playoff. They're a playoff spot here. It's early still. We're not quite to the halfway point, but we're getting there. And another side note is that Charlie Jones, who was the head coach at Katy Jordan, went to Cinco Ranch, played at Colorado State for Buzz Williams a while back. As a head coach, he has to face his nephew, who goes to Cinco Ranch, and Prince Jones buying him, and just talking to Coach Jones, Coach Charlie Jones. He says that ever since the summer at the family functions, it's been talked about. He's proud of his nephew, but he wants to win, and so if he has to scheme and play to stop his own nephew, he's going to. And that's how competitive that is when you have to put family aside and go win games in District 19.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, take it from me as somebody who's had experience like that, where I had to coach against my dad. It's never fun. It's like we'll say all the nice things, like, oh, it's a great time coaching against my blood and all that stuff, but it's like, no, we kind of don't talk to each other for a week before or after all that going on.
Whose side does your mom pick?
She didn't go to the game. She didn't want no part of that. All right, so moving on to our GASO gossip. Mass, I'm going to open it up with a team from the Valley that's making some big noise with Laredo United.
Yeah, September 25th, you and I standing in San Antonio watching Laredo United, watching them run little spread action. We were like, this team's really fun, and they're making some noise. I think they're 11-7, 12-7, something like that, and they just had 3 big wins in a row. East Central, Converse, Judson, and Schertz, Clemens to make that 3 in a row. So good for Laredo United, a team that we were really intrigued by at our San Antonio GASO Fall Classic, and we're glad that we got to see that. And now we're paying attention and 3 really good wins.
Yeah, and Timmins, one of the best stat lines we've seen all year with Mitchell Holmes out of Arlington Oak Ridge.
Yeah, for me, when I'm looking at the GASO gossip, a lot of times a big stat line, me being a video guy, would be like, oh, that would have been good on video or game recap. 36 points, 27 rebounds, scored 36 of their 51 or 52 points for Oak Ridge. I mean, that's a big boy stat line there. Mitchell Holmes, kind of under the radar a little bit, had some back issues during the summer, was suited to play with that Pro Skills EYBL team. Didn't really get on that EYBL circuit. But looks like, 36 and 27 means the back's probably doing pretty well.
Yeah.
So look for him to continue to have momentum, and I'm excited to see him this summer.
For sure.
Zyon Little, I think for many years now, it looked like everything was trending into the direction of him being a football player.
Always a really good hooper.
Yeah.
Yes, always has been. And now we kind of see where I don't know which way he's leaning in terms of if he's going to be a football player or a basketball player. He's going to look over options at the end of the spring to see who's recruiting him in which sport. And he's out there averaging a double-double. The word on the streets out there in Houston is that he's a guy that gets up early in the morning, 5:30 a.m. He's in the gym, working out before school with his trainer. And he just overall, though, when you watch highlights of him, whether it's football or basketball, you see a guy that's really improved on the basketball court, because we see so many times that when you miss 8 months out of the year because you're focused on football, 7-on-7 and so forth, spring practice, you miss a lot of court time. But he's out there and he's got some college coaches buzzing about him at the Division I level, and so he is making strides and kind of trending in the right direction when it comes to making a push for basketball and saying, hey, here I am, come get me, because he does a lot of great things on the court as an athlete, as a scorer, as a rebounder, defender, everything.
Yep. So moving on to our noteworthy games for the rest of the week, and there's a lot of them to pick because there's some really good games all over the place. I'll go ahead and start because as far as district openers go, this is about the best one I think you can find in the state, and that's Dallas Pinkston at Dallas Carter this Friday. Man, Pinkston's been getting hot lately. I mean, what can't you say about Dink Payton, his ability to score the basketball against a Carter team that's consensusly been the top 1 or 2 team in 4A all year. I mean, they've just got so many prospects when you try to go evaluate those guys. So for a district opener, both of these teams come in with a 0-0 record now that the season kind of resets itself. It's going to be interesting to see if those young guys at Pinkston can kind of unsettle the experienced and honestly kind of dominant front court that Carter has put together with them.
What in Dink Pate yesterday against Sulphur Springs went for was
33 and 17.
Yeah.
Ho hum.
Yeah.
That's what he just does.
And Sulphur Springs is a good,
they're
well coached
Oh,
team.
they're
that
really,
he was
really
able
good.
to go slice through.
Yeah, and then I'll hop in here tonight if you want some Wednesday night hoops. I think you can catch it on Texan Live. Katy Jordan at Mayde Creek, and Blue just hit on how competitive that district is. And Mayde Creek's sitting at 2-4, but they have 2 1-point losses. They could easily be 4-2. They need this district win tonight against a really, really good, balanced Katy Jordan team. This one definitely worth tuning in to kind of see what happens here because Mayde Creek's got some dudes.
Hey, let's note this. Mass at the beginning of the year, what did you say? We walked away from Houston. You're going, go watch Katy Jordan.
Yeah, it's a
That
balanced
team is legit, and nobody was talking about them. Once again, you were on top of it because you saw certain things in that team that puts them at 6-1, second in the district. So, that give you some props there.
Hey, Coach Jones has done a great job and well deserved. But this game's pretty big tonight, and Mayde Creek can't drop the 2-5. That's the mindset.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for me, Lancaster Forney Friday night. Forney kind of flying a little under the radar. 2 losses, and the 2 losses, Frisco Independence and to
Mount Pleasant.
Mount Pleasant.
Who's undefeated?
Yeah, who's undefeated. 2 losses that they're definitely not bad losses. You take on a Lancaster team that, similar to the way Derrick Henry is, the later in the season, later in the game, they start figuring it out. So this is going to be a good district matchup.
Great comp.
Lancaster recently just dropped a tough one to Red Oak. So those 3 teams are still in the mix probably for that first place in that district. So Friday night, will be a nice little movement game there in that district.
Let me know how my guy Ronnie Harrison does. The most out of nowhere prospect I think of 2023. I saw him and that cat can go.
Oh yeah, so I'll be at the game. So I'm not just saying, hey, I'll be there. So yeah.
So you're telling me that Derrick Henry has Tractor Cedo season?
Okay.
We might have Lanka Cedo season late down the stretch. That was grown worthy, but we just got to keep it moving. On the Blues.
Mine might be a little obvious. I just want to go see as many prospects as possible before we get to the rankings. Keller at Haltom, probably 2-3 guys there in the mix that I want to see with from Keller and Haltom. So it's kind of like maybe an obvious game when you go through and try to comb through all the games on Friday night. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. And anybody looking for some more bonus basketball, Houston, some of those districts have flipped to the Wednesday, Saturday now. So Saturday, 1 p.m., you got Atascocita, Summer Creek, and a huge district matchup down there.
And Seven Lakes play.
And Seven Lakes
Tompkins?
against, I believe it's either Katy Taylor or Katy Jordan.
Katy Taylor. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, Texan Live, get you a subscription to that because it's helping us out. It's helping everybody out to watch some really good basketball. Now to some noteworthy teams that we just want to show some shine to with some impressive winning streaks. And we talked about this in the office, with Duncanville out of the picture in 6A Region 2, who's that next team that's going to be the favorite? And I think Mass has that team kind of circled, and they're on an 11-game win streak of their own.
Yeah, Sam and I were just kind of going through the regions, who we think could possibly win it, and we were looking at Region 2, and we were like, okay, this is wide open. No Duncanville, just like you said. And I said, the first thing I thought was, well, who is the best player in the region? And I went down, and JoJo Tugler, and I kind of looked around. I was like, they're really well coached. They've gotten better. And then I was like, let's go check how many games in a row they've won. They're on an 11-game winning streak, and they're getting a lot of things done. And that's a coaching staff that time and time again just prove how great they are. Just sneaky. And then they also got, not to mention Daylon Porter, who I think is one of the best defenders in the state. So you got a guard stopper, and then you have an elite big who I'm not sure many people can stop.
Facts.
Yeah.
For me, Dallas Kimball, I talk about him often, but 12 wins in a row. And the loss that they had, they took the show on the road and lost to a Wheeler out of Georgia who has a top 5 consensus 2023 point guard, and Isaiah Collier. And I saw highlights of that game, and him and Tejon Brown went at it, so that's definitely not a bad loss. One of those teams that, as it's winter time, as we start looking at playoffs, they have to be at this point still the favorite for 5A or one of the favorites.
For sure.
So 12 wins in a row, had to shout them out.
Yeah, and Blue, we both picked San Antonio teams. I mean, we talk about San Antonio, Brennan, and the gauntlet, the absolute gauntlet that they had to run at the start of the year. I think they ended up with 7 losses of their first probably 15 or so games. But ever since then, they're on a 14-game winning streak and just go regular business as usual for them in San Antonio.
Well, I think part of it is that they had such a strong schedule, like you mentioned at the beginning of the year, that where people stopped talking about them. Their last loss came against Austin Westlake, I believe, after their long stretch of going to Houston, Dallas, and they wound up going on a Tuesday. And you know what? They got blown out. I mean, you can go back and look at the score. They lost by 20 plus, almost 30 points. And so they've regrouped. They've, when you look at highlights and clips and everything, they're starting to get back to their kind of basketball, and they're comfortable knowing that, hey, anything that gets thrown at them, they'll be ready for. And so great, just restarting the engines for them. And then you look at San Antonio Veterans Memorial. 22 in a row. And that was actually, I get a text message and from a buddy of mine down in San Antonio, and then talking to, of course, Tim Littlefield, our representative down there from the GASO staff, and they're just playing great basketball. And Steve Garcia, who's the head coach there, at the beginning of the year, him and I talked at the GASO Fall Classic, and he mentioned right away, I don't know how good we are. We don't have a lot of experience because they lost a lot of seniors. Well, that experience is coming from somewhere. Obviously, once again, we're going to highlight coaching. We're going to highlight the way that they play on the court, which is very they play together. They have the chemistry, and you just don't win 22 games in a row just because we're just here to play ball and let's go home. There's something brewing over there. They're 4-0 in district. They just got done beating San Antonio Wagner last night. That might have been even on the road at Wagner, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Oh, they were at home. Okay, so Veterans more at home, but they're sitting at 4-0.
Yeah.
Bernie Champion, who went to state, sitting at 4-0. They clash on the 20th, which is next Friday. I mean, it's brewing down there in San Antonio.
Yeah,
I mean, we had to hit on 2 teams.
Yeah. So now to wrap things up, we're just going to go through a little lightning round of players that we've seen that impressed us over the past week or so. And, Mass, I'll let you start with the guys you saw last night.
Yeah, Xavier Payton, Mark Rusha out of Richland, North Richland Hills, combined for like 45 of the 61 points last night. Xavier was very notable, hit 4 big threes. They were trailing. He hit 4 big threes, like I think 4 possessions in a row. It was wild. Fun to watch.
Yeah, Blue?
Well, right away, Evan Hughes had 5 big threes for Canyon last Friday night against Randall on the road. So they took sole possession of that first place in District 4 in Region 1 of 4A. And so, he's just a guy that kind of breaks loose a little bit. If you leave him open, man, he's got a pretty shot, and he drilled 5 of them.
Yeah, for me, picking Glenn Bishop out of Stafford, got to stream a number 10 versus number 12 matchup between Stafford and Iowa Colony last night. And, Iowa Colony got out to this 26-11 lead, and it seemed to just kind of dawn on Glenn Bishop like, hey, I'm a senior. I'm going against sophomores and freshmen here. I'm just going to be a grown man. Went out and scored 18 points from that point, propelled them to a win. Was really impressed with what I saw from him.
I'll hop in again. Jacoby Coleman, saw him last Friday.
Yep.
Love the day games. Friday games. And he was just doing it all. Jacoby Coleman, super talented, compact guard, shooting the 3 ball better. And when that perimeter game to go along with the athleticism and all the other stuff he does, difference. And I'll also say this, like he could be a next level wide receiver too. That guy has incredible ball skills. I saw him pick one over a kid's head. And then take one step and dunk. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, Timmins, who's the guy
Coach
for you?
Fryer, he's not, pushing for that, though.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, for me, Sean Mondragon, 2026, Corpus Christi Veterans Memorial, South Texas. Y'all got one down here. One of the top next gens of all the next gens in the state of Texas resides in Corpus Christi. I mean, the kid came to our Tops in Texas camp, playing over the rim now, explosive, turning into a must-see in that area. I mean, the kid's a freak.
For sure. Last one for me is Justin Buenaventura for Plano. Been a really, really good piece for them. You know, when you talk about their front court and how dominant they can be, was able to watch that Plano East game, and Justin Buenaventura was almost like his ability to affect the game from the guard spot was a huge difference maker when you consider McBride and Williams inside, and his ability to make shots and get to the rim was impressive for me. Blue, wrap us up.
Yeah, just I could probably do a whole segment on KJ Thomas by himself. Had 28 points, even though they did not beat Canyon. He had 28 points, hit 5 threes. Yesterday he comes back, hits 30 points. It's the adjustments that this kid is making that has him a riser. And when it comes to his basketball athleticism, he's throwing the ball in. I mean, he's listed at 6 foot. Okay, but he's out there doing things of getting off the floor. I'm not talking about high and throwing the ball in. He's hitting 3-pointers. His average when he's right around that high school, college 3-point mark is pretty darn close to 40%. And just talking to his head coach, Leslie Broadhurst, he's excited for the kid. He gets to do whatever he needs to do on the court to win. And there's just a lot of things that we'll get into later about KJ that is propelling his team and his game to the next level.
Yeah, and that'll wrap up this edition of the GASOcast. Make sure to follow us on social media at TexasHoopsGaso. Subscribe to the GASOcast on YouTube. Like and turn on those notifications. For the GASOcast, this is at Gaso Lyndon signing off. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you next time.